So today we are going to see what is the advantage of Spring Boot over Spring applications. So previously we have a Spring based application we used to develop. So in the Spring based application, let's say if you wanted to develop any web application, first you are going to have your own configuration. I mean the dependencies you need to add based on the version what you are using. Another point is you need to configure your dispatcher servlet, and also you need to add the web dependencies and all the things you need to add it. And the other point is here if you go with the Spring Boot, so we don't need to configure these are all the things. So what it makes for that, the first point is we have a Spring Boot starter template we have. So the Spring Boot starter template is the one like where you can add all the dependencies. Like we have different dependencies, different starters I mean to say. One starter is like web starter, JPA starter, and also like Redis. There are Thymeleaf. There are different starters what we have. So the advantage of these starters is it has coming up with inbuilt jar files and also embedded servers. All these things which has been provided. Jar files means the supporting. Suppose if you are developing a web application, I can use Spring Boot starter web. If I use Spring Boot starter web, what happens? If I use Spring Boot starter web, the dependencies for developing a web application and the dispatcher servlet and also the REST based jar files like Jackson jar files will be added to your application automatically. That is Spring Boot starter web basically. Like that we have many. Suppose if you are working with the Spring Boot starter data JPA, Spring Boot starter JPA. So if you are working with the Spring Boot starter JPA, it has a entity manager and a data source information together will be coming up. Okay. So like that we have different starters. That is the major advantage of a Spring Boot applications when you are going. The second point is we have a auto configuration. So the auto configuration means adding all the jars to the supporting project. I mean to say, suppose I am working with web or JPA or something. If I am working, so those related jar files I need to add it explicitly. I don't need to add anything explicitly because at enable auto configuration is available for us, so that we don't need to do it anything explicitly. So here auto configuration is nothing but adding all the jar files to the class path. That is auto configuration. To do that we have at enable auto configuration. That's a point. So the third point is embedded servers. Yes. So if you are working with a Spring Web MVC, you need to manually use which is the server you are going to use it. But in case of a Spring Boot web starter, if you use, it has an inbuilt server. The server is we have Tomcat, or you can use Jetty. So suppose if you are working with the only Tomcat, you don't want anything. So or else if you wanted to exclude the existing Tomcat, the embedded Tomcat, you can also exclude that. So by using exclude in the dependency of web, you can say, and you can exclude that starter, you can exclude that server, and then you can go for the next one, like you can say the next Jetty or something, you can add it as a dependency. So that is about embedded servers. And coming back to the Spring Boot at Spring Boot application, so it comes under bootstrapping. So what is bootstrapping exactly? Bootstrapping is nothing but 3 points, like you wanted to find out your base packages, where your classes are there, where your beans are there, and also your configuration information, and also like whether your jar files have been added or not. All the 3 things together, they have given it as one annotation. That is at Spring Boot application. So this at Spring Boot application does for us your configuration management, your auto configuration, I mean your jar files management, and your component scan, your packages, your base packages, your base classes, and all the things where your components are there, all the things will be added automatically. For that you have one class, main class, that is called a class which contains a main method in the Spring Boot application, that you need to run it. So if you run it, so these 3 things will be done internally. We don't need to do anything explicit way. So the major advantage of the Spring Boot, what I am saying is, you don't need to add dependencies and auto configurations, and also like server management, and also like component scanning, all the things will be taken care by your Spring Boot applications internally. That's all.